Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. I'm a former dating coach turned business relationship consultant for female entrepreneurs. So basically what that means is I help you have better business relationships that help you make more money. I'm changing the face of networking so that it's no longer for salesy weirdos. It's for actual human beings who want to grow their business through genuine connections. I do that a couple different ways. I have virtual speed networking events twice a month, and they're super, super fun. I also founded the Powerful Women Rising Community, which is a membership program for female entrepreneurs that includes the perfect mix of connection with other awesome female entrepreneurs, mindset, strategy. It's designed to be everything that you need to take your business to the next level without letting you get distracted by expensive, shiny objects. So if you want to check either one of those out, definitely click the link in the show notes. Let's dive into today's episode because it is a big one. If you know anything about human design, you know that it is probably almost impossible for us to dig into what human design truly is and all the benefits of understanding your human design in 25 minutes. But my guest and I did the best we could. In this episode, I interview Melanie Hill. She's a delightful human being. If you're listening to the podcast, I highly encourage you to check out the YouTube video also because she's just the cutest person. She has this rainbow colored background and this cotton candy pink hair, and it just makes you feel really happy to watch her. Melanie is a human design expert, and she's also a coach, and she helps business owners use their own unique strategy to grow their business with fun, not with pressure and burnout. She is a woman after my own heart, all about authenticity and doing business the way that you want to do it. She helps her clients use their business for feeling successful and satisfied along the way, not just when they get to a certain dollar amount. Can I get an amen? All right. I know regardless of where you are with your human design journey, if you're like, what the hell is human design? Or if you're like, oh, I know I'm a manifesting generator and my shadow is honesty. I don't know if that's actually a shadow. I just made that part up. But no matter where you are on your journey with human design, I know you are going to love this episode and get so much out of it. So here is my interview with Melanie Hill. Hello, Melanie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
So excited to have you here. And we're going to talk about human design, which I know is like a huge thing for us to talk about. We're going to boil it way down to 20 minutes, if that's possible. But before we dive in, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about you and about your relationship with human design?
Yeah. So I am a manifesting generator. We were just talking about that. And I kind of consider myself a business rebel. I am a heart-led business leader. I really love teaching people how to really become obsessed with themselves exactly the way they are. And I think human design is such a fun tool to do that. We all want to take the personality tests, right? And the know what Enneagram we are and all the things and our astrology. And so to me, I love this so much because I feel like it's like the best personality test meets your therapist. It's like such an amazing tool to show you who you came here to be in the world through a lens that's really helpful. It helps to give you a lot of permission for how you actually naturally want to show up in the world. We're always kind of fighting with that, right? Like, should we do this way or that way? Or we're all trying to follow somebody else's way. But this really gives you permission to just listen to that little voice inside of you and do life the way you want to do it, which I think is so helpful to just have that permission, first of all. And then it can unlock all the floodgates of, dealing with the aftermath of being yourself in the world, right? Which is just a lot of shadow work, integration, and all of that jazz. So human design for me has been extremely helpful in that, really letting myself be seen and doing what I love in the world. I love doing lots of different things all the time. I have ADHD. I'm a manifesting generator. It's sometimes they feel like the same thing. But yeah, human design found me in a time when I was really, really, really trying to build my coaching business. I was striving so hard and I was so burnt out, and I found this thing and it was just like the heavens parted. And I just had all this permission to be myself. And I knew that this was really what I wanted to do. So I've been doing it ever since, I guess, almost 2.5 years now. Really been helping people with their human design and learning how to build their businesses in a way that feels really good for them and just be in the world as themselves. So, I mean, it really affects all relationships, but
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
there's my really long-winded answer to that.
No, I like it. It's good. And it's interesting how aligned it is with a lot of the things that I teach and a lot of the things that I
Mhm.
do, just in terms of like showing up as your true self, creating genuine relationships by being authentic. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I talk a lot about with my clients is how we get so caught up, especially when we're newer in business, trying to do it the way that the quote unquote
Yeah.
successful people are doing it, right? We look at so and so, and she's making so much money, and she says, this is exactly how I do it. And so then
Mhm.
we try to do it exactly how she does it. We follow all the things, but we're still not flying on a private jet and getting on a yacht. And so then we get all in our heads about like,
Mhm.
well, I did all the things that she did, and it worked for this other girl who was in my program. And it
Mhm.
obviously worked for her, but it didn't
Mhm.
work for me. So obviously there's something wrong with me. And so that's intriguing to me about human design is it's just another level of learning to do things the way that you want to do them and the way that
Mhm.
work for you, as opposed to always trying to do it like other people say you should do it.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's really helpful for that. Um, and figuring out what your way is, right? I think that's why when we're so new in business, we're always following somebody else's blueprint, right? Because we have no idea what we're doing. We're like, what the heck are we doing? And so I think that that's helpful, and we can totally beat ourselves up, right? If it doesn't work for us. And a lot of the times it doesn't, right? Like somebody else's way isn't going to work for you. So this is a really good way for you to maybe try on a way that feels more authentic for you and have that kind of, like I've talked about permission already, right? That permission to believe that you actually know inside of you how you want to do it. And you can actually trust that your desire to do it this way is actually what's going to work and what's going to guide you. I think for so much of our lives, we're really taught we can't trust our inner desires very much. They will lead us astray, right? And so we start kind of like beating ourselves up and trying to motivate ourselves by pushing ourselves and becoming this like awful authoritarian, right, with ourselves and just speaking horribly to
Mhm.
ourselves. And I think that's why burnout happens so often too in business, is because of that voice. But um, yeah, it just gives you that kind of ledge to walk out on of faith, of like, maybe I can trust myself. Maybe, I can believe in this human design thing that's telling me this thing that feels right, but is so scary to try out. Um, and then you get to have that success, right? Because we really need to see, our brain needs that evidence, right? That we can create success for us to actually like completely believe it and then walk out further on the ledge and further, right? And then before we know it, we have our own way that we did it too.
Right.
And, we can teach that to the world as well if we want. But yeah, so that's really how I see that helping.
So for someone who has never really heard of human design
Mhm.
before, can you boil it down to like a simple explanation of what human design is all about?
Yeah, so it's a synthesis of a lot of different things put together, like the chakras, the I Ching, and astrology. Those are probably the main ones. Um, it's very much based on astrology, but what's cool about it is it combines two different types of astrology. So it's the moment you're born, so like regular astrology that we know, but it also takes 88 days before you're born. It takes a snapshot of where all the astrology is and it puts it all together. So I love to kind of describe it as your soul birthday and your body birthday. So it's kind of like it helps you understand yourself from two different perspectives. Um, astrology is just kind of like that one side, and I love that it does that. So the reason why it takes that 88 days before you're born snapshot So a lot of religions say that that's when your soul enters the body, and science says that's when your prefrontal cortex starts to form. So it's kind of like when you first become aware in the womb, and that has a lot to do with what you're here to do too. So it kind of taps into that more shadowy place that a lot of us have a hard time going and really figuring out how to navigate that part. And it really helps you guide your energy. So in human design, it's not just the 7 chakras, they're called energy centers, and there's 9 of them. And so depending on which ones you have defined or open, so there's different ways that your body graph and your design can come together. So if you have a center defined, then you have that energy consistently. If you have it open, it's more like you're here to experience the energy of others in that place, and you become really deeply wise. But if you have those centers defined, then you know how you're here to interact with the world. A lot of us are taught that we have to push a lot of things into the world, right? We have to take initiative, right? Push a lot of things out. But a lot of us are actually here to just show up and have fun and just respond to whatever's there. You know, like 70% of the population is kind of how they're designed to be. So the first thing you learn in your human design is your type and your strategy. And the strategy is really how your energy is here to interact with the world and interact with other people. And that's what supports you throughout your life. And that to me is really like the blueprint of how you're here to do life. And so learning that is one of the most helpful things you can learn. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
How much I'm totally going off on a tangent now that everybody's listening is like, what does this have to do with business? But I am curious, how much of your human design can it be overcome or overridden by like situational things, circumstances in your life? Like if during those 88 days, you are in a very high stress situation, does that change your human design, or does your human design never change?
Your human design never changes, but it's kind of like this key that unlocks the door to your personal story. So it's a way for you, it's like shines light and understanding on your personal story. So that's why I love working with people one-on-one a lot. I do groups, but one-on-one is like the juicy part for me with human design, because I get to hear your story, and then we can unlock those certain pieces, and you can understand, oh, that's why I reacted this way to this thing in my life. And that's why I have this story around this thing, right? Because we all have very particular ways that we react to certain traumas or circumstances in our life. And so this really helps you understand why, and then how to use that to heal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I can think of some ideas. My next question was going to be about business, about how knowing and understanding your human design better makes business easier, maybe. I don't know if easier is the right word. Maybe it's simpler. I don't know if it's ever easy, but it could be simpler. And one of the things that I'm thinking of is a lot of what I do is trying to change the way that people are networking. And a lot of what I talk about is we have this idea of like what a successful female entrepreneur is supposed to look like. It is this, high achieving, type A, neurotypical, go-getter, up at 5 a.m, taking a cold shower to start the day. Like, and I am not any of those things, have never been any of those things. And so one of the things I talk about a lot is like part of the reason that networking has gotten so weird and sleazy, for lack of a better way to put it, is because so many people are showing up thinking, this is what I need to be in order to be successful here. Like I have to look this certain way or act this certain way and put on this mask that I'm so successful and everything's great, because that's how I'm going to get clients and referrals and all the things we're trying to get from networking. So I like this idea that human design can kind of bring you back to yourself and give you permission to show up in the world as yourself. And I would think, at least from my own experience, that once you start doing that, you see that things are actually better, that you're attracting the right people, that the things that you want to be happening in your life are happening. So beyond that, can you talk a little bit about how knowing and understanding your human design makes business simpler?
Yes. So I think the first way, and I totally agree with everything you said, like it really, right, the more authentic you become, the more you're just going to attract to you the people that are meant for you, right, in all areas. So that is like kind of the magical part of it. But the first way I would say human design is extremely helpful in business is it helps you understand your energy. So most of us are using our energy in a way that is not aligned for us. And I'm meaning literal energy, right? Like how you are showing up in the world. Are you making yourself, like you said, wake up at 5 a.m. and do all this stuff when honestly, you do way better if you sleep till 9, right? And then start your day at 11 and work till 4. Like there's so many different ways that people are actually supposed to use their energy, right? We're all very conditioned, I think, to this like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 model. Or like, it's also extremely romanticized, I guess, or like, what's the word? Like, cheered on. What's the word? It's like, you get a lot of praise, I guess is what I mean. When you work like 60 hours a week or something, right? You just work all these hours, you get everything done. It's like, how do you do it? Oh my God. Right. That kind of thing. But you're really not, you're not meant to do that. There's very few people on this earth that are actually meant to work that way. And so learning your type and strategy will, first of all, just change your whole life, especially the way you do business. And you'll find that you have so much more energy and you're going to have so much more fun because you're going to be doing things in a way that you actually want to be doing them. And so that's the first way that I see it really making business easier. And I like to say it will help you do things with ease. It doesn't make it easy, right? Easy implies that it's just like always rainbows and butterflies, right? There's actually a lot of like hard stuff that comes up when you let it be filled with ease, right? Like, so that's really where the hard part comes in, because it's sometimes a lot easier to just do it the way everyone else has already done it, right? And then you don't have to like do any personal work inside of being yourself, right? And being seen and right, like all of that stuff that it brings up. That can be really hard. And we feel like we have a lot of certainty too when we're following somebody else's blueprint. So there's a lot of uncertainty in starting to trust yourself and trust your energy cycles and doing it like that. So it definitely will help you have more energy and use it in a way that's so much more beneficial for you, right? It's like, do the work when you have the energy. Don't force yourself to do it when you don't, right? That kind of thing. So yeah, that's the number one way. It really
How
helps
does
you.
it impact business decisions? Because I feel like that's a big challenge too. Is like we don't really know. So many of us, we got into business not because we knew anything about business, right? I didn't get into business because I knew how to run a business or because I was a marketing expert or a sales expert. Like I had never done any of those things. I got into business because I wanted to coach. And then I was like, oh shit, I have to do all this other stuff too. And a lot of times it feels like I don't know the answer. And, the typical coaching response is, well, if you did know, what would the answer be? And I'm like, I still don't fucking know.
Isn't that the shittiest question? Oh my God. I hate that question. Yes, because it's not helpful.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So how does knowing and understanding your human design help you with business decisions?
Yeah, such a good question. So everybody in their human design has one energy center that's called their authority. And this is the part of you that really helps you know what's for you and what's not. And it's never your mind, right? We're all taught to be in our mind. And that's what that question really is, right? Well, if you did know, it's like trying to get you to come up with a new thought when that can never tell you what's for you, right? Your mind only ever lives in the past or the future. And so it's only ever reliving the past or trying to figure out all the scenarios of the future, right? Which doesn't help you in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Your body knows the answer. And so that one center really helps you know how to tune into your body and listen to your body's cues to know what's for you and what's not. And there's several different ways that can show up for people, but getting to know what that is and learning what it feels like for you. Sometimes it's your emotions, which is something that is really interesting because a lot of us are taught you can't have your emotions, and like you can't let those things guide you. Like they're wrong, right? Like they're not okay to have. But so many of us are actually meant to listen to that part. It's such an intelligent part of you, and there's a very particular way to work with it. But for some of it's our gut, like your gut feelings. You really need to tune in and listen to those and learn those. Some of it, it's just the straight up little whisper of intuition in the moment. Like some of us have to talk it out and hear ourselves speak our truth. So really getting to know what that is for you and working with it. And then you will always know what's for you and what's not. It won't always be like extremely clear, right? Like it is when you're following a step-by-step plan that somebody else wrote out for you, right? So it takes a lot of personal relationship with yourself and with your body and practice with lots of different decisions, right? How does it feel when you go against your authority in your body, right? How does it feel when you go with it? And just trying it on lots and lots of times. And before you know it, you really will know what's for you and what's not very easily.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more somatic and spiritual and a lot less in the headspace way to make decisions. So it's not for everybody, right? Some people will be like, no, I'm going to weigh the pros and cons and that'll be the way I do it. But I really think there's so much wisdom in our bodies if we are willing to get to know what that feels like.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Part of the problem I'm having with this podcast is that I keep interviewing these really interesting people who do really amazing things. And now I have this list of like, here's all the people I need to work with in the future.
Yep.
It's not working for me. If people are as intrigued by this idea of human design as I am, or just want to know more about you and what you do and how all that works, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah. They can find me on Instagram at Melanie Hill Coaching. I have a free membership that you can join, and it's got some really cool courses in there that will teach you about your design. And there's like a monthly Q&A coaching call with me as well. And there's like a community. It's a really cool app that you can get on, and that's free. And then I have a podcast as well called Hack Your Human Design. So
awesome. Do we need to know what our human design is in order to listen to the podcast?
I mean, it would be very helpful. I can't tell you what your human design is unless you give me your birth information, and we can't do that over the podcast, unfortunately. But if you go to my website, melaniehillcoaching.com, you can pull up your free graph there.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I will put the links for all of those things in the show notes so everyone can connect with you. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking today.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I just love this podcast. I know I'm biased because it's my podcast, but I do listen to the episodes back again, sometimes weeks or months after I've recorded them. And I'm like, dang, that is a good podcast. So if you agree, I would love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. I also wanted to mention today's guest, Melanie Hill. If you're listening to this live when it first came out or within a couple weeks of it coming out, has an incredible group program that she's getting ready to offer. It starts August 22nd, and it is all about using your human design to create your business strategy. So it's probably ideal for someone who is already familiar with human design and knows yours, but it's really about business strategy and digging into that with your human design in mind. So I cannot recommend working with Melanie enough. She's amazing. She's so knowledgeable about human design, and definitely check that out. Also wanted to mention we've got a virtual speed networking event coming up in the next couple weeks. So click that link in the show notes. Come and visit us. You will meet me. You will meet some amazing female entrepreneurs. You will get some great connections, whether you are looking for speaking opportunities, collaborative partners, referral partners, or you just want to make some new friends and meet with some women who understand what it's like to be a woman growing a business. Click the link in the show notes and we will be super excited to see you there. Have a great week.